Good afternoon, traders. This is Christian from Strategic Trade Group, and this is your end of day market recap for Thursday, August 8th. And look at the green on the screen today. Completely different than yesterday in terms of, everything over here was basically red to the downside. So today, very strong markets. Risk on day in terms of what performed well. Look at the semis. We're up 6.4%. Crypto's also up there. Kind of gave us a little bit of a hint this morning. Bitcoin, before even the initial jobless numbers came in this morning, Bitcoin was up about 4.4%, and that continued to rally. Biotech also strong, clean energy in there too. Tech overall, software up 3.3%. I'll tell you, that's been one of the things that have been kind of surprised me a little bit. When you look at earnings names, and we've got an earnings list at this point, earnings strength and gap names that I comprise every quarter, but I've got about, I think, around like 70 names. And there's a decent amount of names that I've seen in the software business too. And, I'm a little bit suspect on the software business because there are so many different software companies and some of them do similar things. But I have to say, like, that's where I've been, putting some trades on because the charts are just really strong. Things like Tyler Technologies is a name that I've been talking a lot about. GoDaddy, which obviously that does something different. Today I put on a trade called PSN, and I'm forgetting the name Parsons, which is a IT company. But VRNS is another name that I put on earlier in the week, which is working out. So ServiceNow has been very strong as well. So before I get into any more of the discussion, risk disclaimer in front of you: everything that we're talking about is for information purposes only, not giving any advice or recommendations. Please read the full risk disclaimer right there. By the way, I appreciate all the positives on YouTube from you guys. I've been getting a lot of positive feedback. I appreciate that. Please also like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. I appreciate that type of stuff. So all red yesterday, all green today. That means definitely all red tomorrow. No, I'm just kidding. Just wanted to make sure that you're awake. It's been back and forth with this price action, and it's to me because I'm more of a swing trader. I like to swing trade, and I'm a trend trader. And Dennis Dick from Benzinga was talking about this morning, and he's really good, I think, kind of just putting on different hats as a trader. And I know he likes the kind of, faded market where, fading extremes has really been working, and day trading has really been working because there's been some good ranges. After yesterday's initial move up on the gap up, if you played to the short side, you made a killing. And today, vice versa, we kind of came in flat. The 8:30 weekly initial jobless number comes in lower, and the market just sparks up, and you needed some type of a catalyst to kind of move back higher. But just a very interesting market. And again, as I had mentioned in yesterday's video, this is a market that right now, until volatility subsides, this is a market where you can be playing, both sides successfully, if you have an open mind to it, and taking advantage of what the market is giving you with these big intraday moves. So, first question before I get to any charts, there's always a decent amount of questions that I get in the trading room about a couple different topics. One of which was, hey, what's going on? And the where it used to be that the market liked bad news and for the economics, because bad news meant that the probability of cutting interest rates is going to increase. So bad news was welcome with open arms. So why all of a sudden is the good news being rewarded? Good news meaning today that the weekly initial jobless claims did not move higher. In fact, they moved lower, indicating that there's less people filing for unemployment. Why is the market rewarding that right now? Well, it always depends on what the market narrative is and what the market is fearful about. And right now, the market, so what have you heard over the last week or two? You've heard the SOM rule, which means that, and according to this particular rule, that they're forecasting a recession. So all of a sudden, the recession worries have come into play, and people got very worried about, instead of a soft landing, more of a hard landing. So that's what the market changes its focus, right? So the market has been very skittish because after, and especially after that last monthly jobs report came in weaker than expected, that's what the market has been getting worried about. So right now, and it could change, but right now the market is applauding and is welcoming good news. All right, so that's kind of the story there. Also, I continue to get questions about the VIX and the carry trade. What I'm going to tell you, is a couple things. And first of all, like I'm going to bring up the VIX curve, right? So you could see where this is. And again, we're still in backwardation, right? And I talked about this in yesterday's video, but that means that the front month, the closest to maturity contracts, are costing more than the further out months. And that's a sense of, heightened, not only this heightened volatility, but I'll even say, a little bit of heightened fear in the market. So I think yeah, the differential now is getting smaller after today's decline in the VIX. The VIX sold off about 15% today. So it's beginning to kind of move down a little bit, but yeah, I mean, there were some articles and posts about, hey, well, the VIX, it was really like the VIX didn't really trade up as high as 65. VIX futures never printed that higher. To me, I don't really care, to be honest, because the VIX at a 40 or the VIX at a 65 is still kind of indicating the same thing. It's much higher than where it was about a month ago, which was around 15. So you're splitting hairs between whether it's, a 40 or a 60. They're still telling you that there's a lot of volatility present in the marketplace where it wasn't. So my thought is what will basically happen after, and now we'll bring up just the VIX chart here, but it takes a little bit of time after you have that type of a move, whether it's 40, 50, 60, 80. It usually takes some time for this to subside. And the analogy that I used, which I thought was pretty good, I'm giving myself a pat on the back here, is that it's kind of like, and it's not really like this, but I think it's interesting, or the analogy that I'll use, that closest to analogy, is you kind of think about a little bit about an earthquake, right? When an earthquake happens, um, it's, there's a spike up in the Richter scale, right? And then after that happens, the Richter scale moves obviously back down, but in the subsequent days, you're also going to get these aftershocks where all of a sudden there's another blip on the screen, not as high as the initial earthquake, but you're also going to get these moves up where it's kind of an aftershock where the market and the ground is still kind of feeling out what the damage has been done. So in any event, that's not a perfect analogy. You could probably poke some holes in that analogy, but it kind of makes sense in terms of like spike up and then a little bit of like back and forth after that, because again, it takes a while after that's such a big jump in volatility. It doesn't just automatically just go back to where it was. It takes a little bit of time for that to work out. All right, let's talk about some of the price action, and we'll talk about the S&P chart here. The big thing, what I like to see is after we've had this move down, is a little bit of confirmation, like a move back above the 5-period moving average. That's this fast moving chart. Again, why do I like that moving average? Because it really kind of captures the short-term trend. And right now we've gotten back above here. So that's a good first step versus getting rejected. And this is the highest point now that we've been at the week. So 1 hour chart, again, we're not really going to find that much, that many technicals, because we got so far below this week's value area. I tried drawing a trend line in here, just to kind of give you a sense. When that broke yesterday, it really broke. But I didn't think that we were going to break. I thought that there was a chance that we could test this week's lows, but I didn't think that we were going to break this week's lows. And just an educated guess. We never know. We're always dealing with probabilities in the market. But I'll move higher here. And what's kind of helped me too, and what I've been trying to illustrate or give people, because there's so many things like the carry trade and there's a lot of things going on, right? You read all these articles on Twitter or in financial media, and you begin to say, geez, I'm out of my depth in terms of like, I don't know that much about the mechanics of a carry trade. That's perfectly fine. And perfectly understandable that and you don't really need to, as I had mentioned in an earlier video this week, you don't need to know all of this stuff. You just need to basically formulate a plan of what you're doing on a day-to-day basis. The 5-minute valuers kind of give us a sense of doing that. Again, what I like about the valuers is it gives us a roadmap of levels to basically pay attention to. So we rallied all the way through the valuary for the day. That's S&P futures, and that valuer is going to be a little bit different than SPY because it's a different volume profile. Volume occurs at different times and at different places, even though it's the same underlying thing, which is the S&P index. They're different products. But this was the top yesterday, right? Which I pointed out on Twitter. We tried to move above that and we couldn't do it. And then we fulfilled the 80% rule to the downside for that value area. And we started the day inside value. And, I basically just laid this out and said, hey, watch your levels, know where you've got some resistance. We spent some time at the top of value and we broke through. Right. And then there's support. And it's the same thing for the Qs. Like, the Qs was it was a little bit of a more of a clearer value area because the beginning of the day, we kind of did this. We went right down to the bottom of the value area. But I said, hey, you could be long. This is how you do it. You say, okay, if you have a bullish stance for the day, you can go long versus the bottom of value and take off the trade if we break it. I mean, there's no prediction in here. It's just trading 101. Here's where I want to be long, and here's where I know the trade's not going to work. And we kind of came back and tested this at around 950. There's a little bit of volatility that hit right around 945, but we did a little bit of a bend, but we didn't break, and we moved right back into the value area, and we basically trended for the rest of the day. We had a little bit of had a little bit of an issue there at the top of value just before 3 o'clock today, but we didn't pull back far, and we closed right on the highs of the day. So, for one day, and again, going back to what I said a few minutes ago, this market gave you a great day of trading. So you don't know what we're going to get tomorrow. I would think that I think the worst is behind us, but again, I wouldn't be surprised if there's another aftershock too, with the way that this market has been going. And overall, I mentioned about my earnings list. There has been a lot of good earnings reports. What has been a little bit missing, a little bit, it's just to kind of take both sides of that, is that go back to what we saw a couple of weeks ago with the bigger tech names, the FANG names or the Magnificent Seven. Those names are not doing the best, and that's okay. We can have that rotation out of some of the names that had okay earnings in that group, right? So there's nothing wrong with that other than those names will affect the overall market a little bit more because they are a bigger weight. I mentioned semis, which have been all over the place this week. Talk about another thing that you could play back and forth right now. They are still, but still below the value area, but that's how I would kind of think about it with the semi group is that right now, giving you lots of day trades right now because this has not gone anywhere this week. It's just it's all over the place. And the big name, of course, which is going to report at the end of the week, still, even though it had a nice day today, did not break back into the value area. So it has not gotten out of the pattern of lower highs. And I've talked about this name a bunch of times this week, so I'm going to leave it alone for now. But I think really earnings are going to be the key for this one. Until then, day trading opportunities, right? Unless it at least breaks over that 106.24 level. All right. Just thought I would mention that one. What did I do? So I mentioned today, like names that I traded today. Again, I stick to relative strength names. I stick to names that had strong earnings, right? I only want the best, right? Same thing when you think about a football team, right? You want your best players on the field, right? There's football in my mind because I think the Giants have a preseason game tonight. and I'm optimistic about cautiously optimistic about the Giants season. But listen, I'm excited for football. But you want your best players on the field, right? You want the names that have good earnings, good results. And this is one name that pulled back a little bit. Right? Another name that I like, and I've been watching this name all week, which is whoops, that's the wrong symbol. I was like, that didn't look right. This is Tyler Technologies. Notice how this is spent a little bit of time digesting to the top of value and broke back up. VRNS. By the way, I'm very impressed with a couple names that reported earnings in the cyberspace. FTNT, Cyber, which I have to look at. I'll bring up Cyber in just a second. But this is another one. This is software and security, and had good earnings. Broke back here, and this is where I got involved in this name when it got above the value area. So it's nice to see this one, continue to move higher. But FTNT, I have to say, very impressive to see that earnings report in FTNT and inside day today, but I would watch for some continuation. And then Cyber, I didn't, like I said, I didn't see where this closed. It didn't close on the highs, but still a pretty good day, and it did break inside the value area. So some strength out of those names, and again, different names within the group, right? CrowdStrike, right? I know that it keeps getting mentioned on. Keep hearing it on CNBC. It's making some gains back, and it finally got above its 5-period moving average. But you're going to have to deal with a lot of overhead supply, specifically resistance at 256.60. All right. Other names that I thought have been pretty decent. Um, I'm sticking to aerospace. These names had good earnings. Nice move by How Met Aerospace. I keep calling it How I Met Your Mother because of the symbol, but that's not what it's called. It's How Met Aerospace. Sorry, bad jokes. You can count on those for me. And then, of course, I'm still in FTAI. I bought the dip in this one on that candle day, and since then, it did make it inside the value area. Again, I'm actively taking targets. I took another target today, and this one, I think at 104 or something like that. ARM 104. Yep. TMDX, by the way, this is another one. Like I'm really trying, what I'm trying to do, since we've had these earnings reports is focus on names that I want to be in and focus on names where I'm going to take targets and I'm going to have the confidence to add into weakness. This name did not have a good day yesterday, and I added to it right on the open. It did break above, I think, 160. Watch this level tomorrow, right around the 160 level. So I did take a couple targets in this one. I added this morning, and I took that ad off. But let's see if it can do something great. Again, another name that had great earnings. Another one, I did play this name for earnings. Let's see how it's doing here in the after hour market. This is NTRA, which typically has good earnings. It looks like it's selling off here a little bit from the highs, but I did put on a long call spread for this name that expires in next week for August monthly options expiration. All right, and then a couple names that are doing well. Some disasters, which we see this on a daily basis in terms of earnings. Pubmatic, MITK is another one down 28%. But there's also some good names in here too. Sweetgreen is up 21%. Docs is up. So it seems like you're getting these names that are doing. There's a handful of names that are doing really well. And I mentioned. And I mentioned a couple names earlier, but just going through the list, I mean, look at this. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. Klaviyo. This is KVYO. Right? I believe this is another software name. So let's look at the daily chart in this one. But this one closed on the highs today. I've never traded this name before, but I'll tell you, it'll be on my watch list now. That's a really nice move into some resistance there back in here, but that's a heck of a move on earnings. And again, more names to put on our earnings list. Let me just bring up the larger names. This is that includes small cap names. But NVMI, and again, this is what I really like to find new names too that you begin to learn about. This is a semiconductor, like it's an optical name. Look at this. Look at this move. So it gets you back into the value area. You could trade that versus 207. That's another name that will be on my watch list. Newer name to watch. How about this name? Vacuum cleaners, Shark Ninja, out to new highs today. So really impressive. So again, I think that just in summary, I'm not going to go through every name there, but it's nice to see names. And again, it doesn't have to be the Magnificent Seven names, but it's nice to see names do this, where there are some really good stories out there. So I'm cautiously optimistic about the Giants, and probably the same. I hate that phrase, but probably the same regarding like what we're seeing in terms of some of the names that are reporting earnings, and about closing on the highs. So we'll see if the volatility begins to subside. But I think you still obviously have to be disciplined and take targets, watch your position sizes, watch how many positions you have on, because August is a tricky month. Have a great night, everybody. See you tomorrow.